Hi, and welcome to this episode of Shop Miscellany. I've got a few things to look at today. I've got some new tool acquisitions I picked up during the last couple weeks. And I have this tool here, which I needed to use on a previous project. It's an inside micrometer. And this was an inexpensive one, Chinese one. And it's supposed to go into a bore, and then you come out and you can find your diameter, even a fairly shallow things, except for one problem. You notice the jaws, not only do they not meet, but they're not square. So I'm gonna have to surface grind these guys square based on this shaft down below here, because this is very problematic. It makes it so you can't, I mean, if you're at an angle, you're gonna be measuring a diagonal, not on a straight diameter, so that won't be accurate at all. So we're gonna see if we can fix this tool. It wasn't expensive, and I think I'm kind of paying for that. My goal is to use this shaft here because everything slides along it. So that should be my surface that's square. So we're going to try and set it down, get this vertical, and grind these two. Put a little something between here to put pressure on it and grind these two so that they're in line. I can get about an inch of material here, and then I'm going to have to clean this thing very carefully to make sure there isn't any grit on it or anything like that. And we'll take very light passes till we get there. Before we got onto the machining part of this video, let's take a look at some new tool acquisitions. Recently I was watching one of Tom Lipton's videos over at Ox Tools. You should definitely check out his channel, he's awesome. Anyways, when I watch his videos, I always have one monitor with the video open on it and another monitor with a browser screen so I can look up all the tools he's introducing. I noticed he's been using these for the last few weeks, and I immediately went and tried to find a set of these on eBay, and guess what? They were sold out. Surprise, surprise, because I'm not the only one who Tom gets to buy tools just by showing them. So these are really nice tweezers, serrated tips for good grip, some nice length and some nice tapering tips to reach into places. Pretty darn handy. He uses them for almost everything. I guess I'll see how I end up using them. Only negative thing about these is that they ground the inside of this and then did not remove the sharp edge. So these are little knives right along the edges, so you need to take some sandpaper or a stone and just go over the edges and remove the sharp edges. I'll put a link to these down below. They might be sold out again because when Tom shows something, people tend to buy it. Next up, this isn't particularly exciting, but I bought a set of taps. It's a 3-tap set, you know, standard taper plug and bottoming tap. And these taps are an unusual size. They're 1532-32. The label used to come down here. And this is the only thing that makes this particularly interesting is I bought this from McMaster Carr, and the label on the box was wrong. It said it was 1/8" NPT taps, but they clearly aren't. So I told them, and they were all very apologetic because McMaster's got insanely good customer service. I just wanted to inform them that, because I almost called I initially called to say, hey, you sent me the wrong taps, and I opened the box, and sure enough, the taps were the right ones. The box just had the wrong label. This weird 1532-32 fine pitch thread is for switches and pots. It's that thread on the top that the nut goes on that holds switches in place. It's not too common, but it is a non-standard thread. Next up, I was watching a video of Tom over at Hilltop Machine Works, and it was really coincidental that I had to remove a broken tap and a broken screw in some parts for a customer. And Tom was going over all of his tools. Here's some of the tools I had before, and I've not been particularly happy with any of them. So these are pre-drill, a standard screw extractor, reverse threads. They're hardened, but if the screw's hard, these don't bite very well. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. These guys are for bolt removal, for splitting a bolt. You just tighten this over the bolt and it splits it right in half. Saw these, I think, on Tom Lipton's channel, but Tom at Hilltop Machine Works did a great review on all of his stuff, and that's where I started purchasing some of these. So this was one of these style extractor, except really small, supposedly hardened, and you can tell there's nothing left. It's crashed. Here's some more of different sizes. They're supposedly hardened, but whatever bolt I was trying to remove was just stripping that right off. And these guys are drill bits for those, and then this is an integrated drill bit extractor. Again, I have all these, but I've never had particularly good luck with any of these. I mean, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Here's some more. There's another standard extractor. These, that drill bit is supposed to be able to get your proper size hole for the threaded portion to go into. Again, very minimal success with these. Occasionally they work. Here's a Craftsman screw extractor set for bolts that I had a long time ago. And that is very similar to these sets from Harbor Freight, which you can also use to remove regular bolts just if they're rounded off. These things are great generic removers. And then this last set here is for removing taps. And although the idea seems great, basically you have one of these for each type of tap, depending on how many flutes. This is for a 4-flute large tap. These go down in the flute section, and then you slide this part down to support it, and then you try and undo it. I find that these things just bend and break before they remove the taps. They come in a whole range of sizes and number of flutes. This is also for a 4-flute tap, another 4-flute tap. I find that these fingers just, if the thing's tight, it's not coming out. It's only if it's loose is it coming out, especially when you get to the smaller sizes like these guys right here. There's a 3-flute. And this one is for number 4. Good luck. Anyways, these are some that I had already, but watching Tom's video, I purchased some other ones that I'll show you right now. Here's an interesting set of pliers I picked up. These are Japanese hardened steel vampire pliers, and they're designed with serrated tips with cups on the end right here with serrations, designed to be able to grab a bolt that is stuck and hopefully loosen it. Very, very sharp. It'll bite right in. I think this will have mixed success, but it's an interesting option. So I picked these up. Strangely enough, I get requests to remove broken bolts all the time. Another one, after watching Tom's video that I saw, is this guy right here. Let me open this up. It looks like it's sealed. This set includes 4-side screw removal. You pre-drill a hole and then hammer this guy in, and it wedges in. And since these edges are nice, hardened, and sharp, with some back relief, they should cut into the hole and bite well enough for you to remove it. These are an inexpensive set. Thought I'd give it a shot. Next up is this set of extractors, similar to this set I showed you earlier. Which I'll probably store those in there, except this is Bosch. It's got some drill bits to pre-cut the holes, although these are not left-handed drill bits. Would have been nice if they were. And some screw extractors, hopefully better quality steel than these other ones here. Those other ones I was showing you earlier. So you can tell I'm desperate. I'll try anything. Another solution is when you're pre-drilling for these guys, if the screw doesn't seem like it's too tight, you can try and use a left-handed drill bit instead. And the advantage of a left-handed drill bit is it tries to unscrew it while it's drilling the hole. So it's helping you while you're making the hole. So I've got a set of these as well. The combination of all these things means sometimes you can get something out. You can use heat. There's a lot of people that are better at this than I am. It's almost an art form trying to remove broken taps and broken bolts and things. Bolts are easier than taps because they're not hardened and they don't have those darn flutes that make weak spots where it's really ready to break. But in any case, these are some tools I picked up for that. Next up, we have this very unusual set of tools by Wera, or Wera. It's probably with a V because they're German. They're not inexpensive and they work in limited ranges, but they're a very interesting design. I've seen other tools that are sort of similar. They came in a pouch because this is a set of 4. Oh, 4, okay. And let's see if I got the right bolt size here. So they work in a very limited size range, but when you're actually putting torque on them, the design causes the jaws to close harder, which is kind of neat. And you can open them up manually. Let's see, this is sort of right at the size limit. So you can either catch the tip or you can catch the flat. Each one of these wrenches has a range which is printed on it. So this is 3/4 to 5/8 or 19 millimeter to 16 millimeter bolts. And this set includes 4 different sizes going all the way down to 7 millimeters or 1/4 inch. That's a cute little guy there. So you can see that the jaws open as it rotates. So they're geared in here. I can't actually see the gear, but they're clearly geared. Fair amount of slop here, fair amount of looseness in this, but maybe that helps them grab better. And it feels like it's sort of spring-loaded as well. That's sort of interesting. The whole motion is definitely spring-loaded. So thought these were an interesting find. You could check them out. When I run across a specific need, I'll let you know how they work for me. I bought them simply because I'd never seen anything like it and thought you'd be interested. One more thing that I forgot to mention is that this is sort of a self-ratcheting design because as you come back the other way, the jaws being spring-loaded also release. So you can see that I can, even on the flat. So it basically works as a crescent wrench that self-tightens with a ratchet. And that's a pretty major feature that I missed there. This set is the Wera Joker set, and they make it in imperial and metric, and I just think that they swap the numbers between top and bottom, although I don't know that for a fact, because obviously they cover both. Last tool I picked up is a really weird one, and I only bought it because I've never seen anything like it. It's from a company called Gerber Scientific Instrument Company. They still exist, and they still make this tool. And this tool is slot gauges. It tells you the width of a slot, accurate to a 10,000ths. So it looks like to use one of these, you just take one of these bayoneted ends, and I think that's the front, so maybe I'll stick that forward. Goes straight in, and then I think, do you twist or you just, I can't tell. Yeah, it looks like you need to twist. There we go. Half turn. Now, I don't know if you can catch this on camera, but now it's closing. So let's see if this is smaller. So we put in the gauge block, let it expand. I would think, oh, that's tight. Okay. Set your 0. That is the most positive feeling rotating dial I've ever seen. Pull your gauge block out. This is 0.6250. Measure the width of your groove, and you've got it within plus or minus 0.006 to the nearest tenth. That's a really cool little tool. I don't know if anyone else has ever seen one of these. It wasn't terribly expensive on eBay. They had multiple sets. I thought, well, if I've never seen one, maybe they've never seen one, so let's get it and check it out. And besides, this might be useful. These are obviously not going to be as useful for other people outside the United States because this particular set is all based on standard English units. This is 1/8 inch, and it goes all the way from 1/8 inch up to 5/8. So pretty good for measuring grooves and key slots, which are very hard to measure. It's a neat set. This is probably for more of an industrial environment where you're checking lots of things, but even for occasionally, this might be pretty darn good for me as well. Another item I found on eBay without having to buy a huge quantity is this mobile Vactra number 4. This is the super high viscosity version. Normally use Vactra 2 on most milling machines you have around unless it's a heavy duty one. So this is grade 220 instead of grade 60. So much higher viscosity. And I use this for coating vices and things like that when they're not being used so that they don't corrode. It's ridiculously expensive to buy in small quantities like this. Probably 4 or 5 times the cost of what it would be to buy a 5-gallon pail, at least per volume. But useful to have. So I'm trying to set this guy up. It pays to have some hardened and ground tool steel stock around. It's worth buying some just to have for things like this. It saves you time making it. Let's see. That's not quite thick enough to get there. I'm going to need a little bit more of a spacer than this one. But my goal is to find something I can screw into here, tighten it down, and have it sit on this guy. Fixturing this guy, I've got a parallel on the bottom, which gives me a flat surface. It's not perfect. If this were a really high precision tool, then I'd probably work even harder to get this right. 2 pieces of precision ground stock to hold the jaws in place. Let me just get this set here. Pushing down to line up the bar flat and lock this guy down, and now I should be able to grind this. All right, so we got a nice tight fit on the bottom. So we should be vertical, and now we can just grind across these two. Having little bits of pre-ground tool steel is very handy. It reminds me I should probably buy some more because there's a couple sizes I didn't have and I had to make do. Very useful. So I installed a diamond wheel on the surface grinder, and I've got this diamond wheel dresser that basically sits at an angle, so it rotates with the wheel, but it's always going at an angle, so it's pulling off material. And it's always at a cross relative to the direction of the wheel. You might call it a wheel cross dresser. That wasn't funny, right? I believe you just lower it onto the wheel, or lower the wheel onto it gently. There we go, we're just starting. After you run that wheel, you got to remove all the resin from between the diamond grit. That's what this guy's for. Should be good. And now we're just gonna grind those faces until they're flat, like a 1,000th at a time. There we go, now they're matching. That should make this a lot more useful. Now that these faces are flat, I can get in very shallow areas, which is really nice. And we can check the calibration ring. Should be 8/10. It's a little bit off there. So this is 1.00008. Oh, this should be 1/10. It's off by a lot. All right. 80 millionths of an inch is what that's supposed to be. All right, so we got this thing ground nicely. The ends are nice and flat, so I can measure very shallow depths. And it's calibrated, not at 20 Celsius, so not really calibrated, but set for the environment of my shop, which is currently about 90 Fahrenheit. Pretty darn warm. That's why you hear all the fans going. So we're good for this project. Now that this is a flat surface here, rather than shaped like a triangle, I can measure pretty shallow depths, hopefully somewhat accurately. That's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you find it useful. Hope to see you next time.